3 years of my life with Sophia ended with a simple text message. I was in the middle of a quarterly planning meeting when my phone vibrated. What I read froze me in place. "Pierce, it is over. My new man is taking me to Paris tomorrow. Do not try to contact me. I will send someone to get my things." I felt the blood drain from my face but somehow maintained my composure. What Sophia did not know was that her new man was Jake, my newest intern. I responded with just 3 words: "Enjoy your flight." Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Drop a like if you believe karma has perfect timing and subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Trust me, you will want to hear how this unexpected betrayal led to one of the most satisfying moments of justice in my life. To understand how shocking this betrayal was, you need to know about our relationship. I am Pierce, 34 years old, and the marketing director at a major advertising firm in New York. I met Sophia at a product launch party 3 years ago. She was 26 then, a talented fashion designer with ambitious dreams and a captivating smile. That night, she confidently approached me while I was discussing a campaign with colleagues. "Your Nexus campaign was brilliant," she said, referring to a recent smartphone launch I had overseen. "The way you connected technology with human emotion, rather than just focusing on features, was exactly what the market needed." Her insightful observation impressed me. Unlike most people who complimented my work with vague praise, Sophia understood the strategy behind it. We exchanged numbers, and our first date happened at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, covering everything from design philosophy to our shared love of 70s rock music. The relationship progressed naturally. By 6 months, we were practically living together. I would wake up early to make coffee while she sketched designs in bed. Weekends were spent exploring art galleries, trying new restaurants, or simply walking through Central Park discussing our dreams. Sophia talked about launching her own fashion line while I shared my ambitions of eventually starting my own agency. For her birthday during our first year together, I surprised her with studio space in Brooklyn where she could work on her designs. She cried when I showed her the space, saying no one had ever believed in her talent so completely. That moment felt like a confirmation that what we had was special. I introduced Sophia to important contacts in my network. She met fashion editors, retail buyers, and potential investors through events I either organized or was invited to. Her career began to gain momentum with a small feature in Vogue, and her designs being picked up by a boutique in Soho. I was genuinely proud of her success, and happy to help however I could. Around the 2-year mark, subtle changes began appearing in our relationship. Sophia became increasingly critical of my work hours. As a director, I often had to stay late for client emergencies or international calls, which she initially understood but later resented. "You are never going to advance if you keep being their workhorse," she would say. "Look at Martin. He became partner because he delegates and focuses on building connections, not doing the actual work." Martin was indeed recently made partner, but what Sophia failed to acknowledge was that he had 15 years more experience than me and had paid his dues just as I was doing now. Her material expectations also shifted. Where we once enjoyed discovering hidden neighborhood restaurants, she now preferred trendy, expensive places where she could post photos with recognizable backdrops. The genuine joy in our activities seemed replaced by how they would appear to others online. Her birthday gift requests became specifically branded and priced. The small Chanel bag in beige would be perfect, she would say, sending me links to exactly what she wanted. While I could afford these gifts, the transactional nature of the exchanges bothered me. Despite these concerning changes, I remained committed. For our upcoming 3-year anniversary, I had been planning a surprise trip through Europe, starting in Paris at the St. James Hotel, followed by the Amalfi Coast and ending in Barcelona. I had mentioned this plan vaguely during a team meeting while discussing vacation schedules, though without specific details. I believed we could work through our issues. People grow and change, and relationships require adjustment and compromise. I was willing to put in that work because I truly loved her and thought she loved me too. Jake Harris joined our company 6 months before the breakup. At 25, he was slightly older than our typical interns, having worked for 2 years at a small agency in Chicago before moving to New York to play in the big leagues, as he put it during his interview. Something about Jake made me uneasy from the start. His resume was impressive, with excellent recommendations and a solid portfolio. During his interview, he demonstrated sharp thinking and creative ideas. But there was an intensity to his ambition that bordered on ruthlessness. When asked where he saw himself in 5 years, he answered without hesitation, "In a position like yours or higher." The Human Resources Director, Melanie, expressed concerns after his interview. He has the skills, but his personality assessment shows extremely high competitiveness and low team orientation. "Are you sure you want that energy in your department?" I decided to take a chance on him. "Raw talent with the wrong attitude can be redirected," I told Melanie. "And if it does not work out, it is just an internship." Jake started strong, showing exceptional aptitude for digital campaigns. His ideas were innovative, and he worked tirelessly, often staying later than even I did. Within 2 months, I assigned him to assist on the Taylor Sportswear account, a major client that valued fresh perspectives. "This is a huge opportunity, Jake," I explained. "You will be working directly with me and learning our entire process from concept to execution." His eyes lit up. "I will not let you down, Pierce. This is exactly why I came to New York." Jake quickly became involved in various aspects of the company, attending meetings that interns typically would not be invited to. He demonstrated such understanding of our financial reports that our CFO, Dan, commented on it. "Your new guy really gets the business side of advertising," Dan told me. "Most creatives just want to make pretty pictures without understanding cost structures." As Jake proved himself reliable, he gained more access and responsibility. After 3 months of solid performance, he was issued a corporate card for project expenses, client meetings, and occasional travel. This was standard for team members working directly with clients, though unusual for an intern. The card had a modest limit and required monthly expense reports. Jake met Sophia for the first time at our holiday party. I noticed how attentively he listened as she described her latest design collection. Initially, I appreciated his politeness toward my girlfriend. Looking back, I should have noticed how his eyes followed her throughout the evening, or how he strategically mentioned connections he had in the fashion industry. After that, Sophia began stopping by the office more frequently, usually unannounced. I was just in the neighborhood, she would claim, though her studio was in the opposite direction. During these visits, Jake always found reasons to be in the common areas, engaging her in conversation while I finished up calls or meetings. In one particular instance, I returned from a conference call to find them laughing together in the break room. Their conversation stopped abruptly when I appeared. Jake quickly excused himself, mentioning a deadline. "Your new intern is quite charming," Sophia commented afterward. "And surprisingly knowledgeable about fashion for an advertising guy. He is sharp." I agreed, not thinking much of it, but still has a lot to learn about the industry. The most telling incident occurred during a team meeting where I mentioned needing to reschedule some projects due to my upcoming European vacation. I did not share specific details, just the dates I would be unavailable. After the meeting, Jake approached me. "Europe in spring sounds amazing. Any specific destinations?" "Starting in Paris," I replied casually, "then down to Italy, and ending in Spain." "The St. James in Paris is supposed to be incredible," he remarked. "A friend stayed there and said the experience was unforgettable." I was surprised. "That is actually where I booked." "How did you know?" He shrugged. "Lucky guess. It is where I would stay if I were planning a romantic Paris trip." Now I realize he had likely already seen my booking confirmation, which I had printed and left in a folder on my desk. At the time, I thought nothing of it, even sharing some details about the itinerary I had planned. Jake began asking frequent questions about my travel arrangements, always framed as casual interest. "Have you finalized your Italy plans? Which part of Barcelona are you staying in?" In retrospect, His interest was far from innocent curiosity. As my relationship with Sophia grew more strained, Jake became increasingly confident at work, sometimes bordering on presumptuous. He began making decisions without consultation and speaking directly to clients in a way that suggested he was leading projects rather than assisting. When I addressed this with him, his response was telling, "I thought you would appreciate me taking initiative. After all, someone needs to be ready to step up when opportunities arise." At the time, I interpreted this as eager ambition. Now I understand it was something far more calculated. The day everything fell apart seemed ordinary at first. I was leading our quarterly planning meeting presenting campaign projections to the executive team when my phone vibrated in my pocket. Normally, I would never check messages during such an important presentation, but something compelled me to glance down. The message from Sophia read, "Pierce, it is over. My new man is taking me to Paris tomorrow. Do not try to contact me. I will send someone to get my things." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My voice faltered mid-sentence, and our CEO Richard asked if everything was all right. "Just a minor emergency. Give me one moment," I managed to say, before excusing myself briefly. In the hallway, I read the message again, trying to process what was happening. 3 years together ended in a text message. And Paris. The first destination of the trip I had been planning for months. The coincidence seemed impossible. I took 3 deep breaths, composed myself, and returned to the meeting. Somehow I finished my presentation on autopilot, answering questions and discussing strategies while my personal life imploded. Several colleagues commented later on my professionalism, unaware of what had just happened. After the meeting, I noticed Jake was absent from his desk. His calendar showed no scheduled meetings and his laptop was gone, suggesting he had left for the day. This was unusual as he typically worked late, especially on project days. As I passed by the creative department, I overheard 2 designers discussing weekend plans. "So Jake is really going to Paris tomorrow. Lucky guy getting to combine work and pleasure," one said. "Yeah, something about checking European agencies for collaboration opportunities," the other replied. Though he seemed pretty excited about his companion more than the work part, I stopped cold. Jake and Paris in the same sentence could not be coincidental. Moving quickly to my office, I logged into our company travel portal. As a director, I had access to view bookings made with corporate cards. There it was. Jake had booked 2 first-class tickets to Paris for the following day, departing at 8:00 p.m. The hotel reservation followed the same pattern as my planned trip, exactly 7 nights at the St. James Paris in their luxury suite. All charged to his corporate card, totaling over $12,000 for flights and accommodation alone. I dug deeper, checking his recent expenses. There were charges at Tiffany & Company, a high-end restaurant I had once mentioned wanting to take Sophia to, and even a private car service scheduled for airport pickup in Paris. He had essentially taken my romantic itinerary and claimed it as his own. My suspicions fully confirmed, I checked Jake's desk drawers, finding a printed itinerary that mirrored the one I had created down to the specific restaurants and attractions. The only difference was that my name had been replaced with his. The final piece came when I checked my personal email and found a message from our building's security system. Someone had accessed my apartment at 2:00 p.m. while I was in the meeting. The timestamp photo showed Sophia entering with a small suitcase, presumably packing her things while I was safely out of the way. The betrayal was complete and meticulously planned. My girlfriend and my intern had not only been seeing each other behind my back, but Jake had used company resources to steal my romantic getaway plans. The audacity was breathtaking. I sat in my office as the reality sank in. The woman I loved and the young professional I had mentored had conspired to betray me personally and professionally. My initial shock gave way to a cold, calculating anger. This would not stand. I had several options for how to respond to this betrayal. The emotional part of me wanted to confront them immediately, to call Sophia and demand explanations, to march Jake into my office the next morning and fire him on the spot. But a calmer, more strategic voice in my head suggested patience. After careful consideration, I sent Sophia a simple 3-word reply. Enjoy your flight. No accusations, no emotional outburst, nothing that would alert her to the fact that I knew exactly who her new man was or what they had planned. Similarly, I sent no communication to Jake, allowing him to believe his scheme was working perfectly. Instead, I called Daniel from our legal department. Daniel, hypothetically, what are the company policies regarding misuse of corporate cards for personal expenses, particularly by interns? Not hypothetical at all, Daniel replied. It is grounds for immediate termination and potential legal action, depending on the amount involved. Why do you ask? I explained the situation, showing him the travel receipts and expenses Jake had charged. Daniel whistled. That is serious fraud. Over $10,000 in personal charges, disguised as business expenses. Do you want me to start termination paperwork now? Not yet, I said. I need to handle this carefully. When does policy allow us to cancel a corporate card? Immediately upon termination or suspicion of fraud. The card belongs to the company, not the employee. Next, I consulted with Melanie from HR. She confirmed what Daniel had told me and added, for interns, the process is even simpler since they are not full employees. You can terminate the internship immediately, especially in cases of misconduct. With the official aspects clarified, I called my college friend Mark, who happened to work as a concierge at a different hotel in Paris. Mark, I have an unusual favor to ask. A former employee is misusing company funds at the St. James tomorrow. Could you keep me updated if you hear anything about problems there? Perhaps speak to your colleague at that property. Consider it done. Mark assured me. The hospitality community here is small. I will let you know if anything happens. With these pieces in place, I created a detailed timeline. Jake and Sophia would board their 8:00 p.m. flight, arriving in Paris around 1:00 a.m. local time the next day. The St. James would not allow check-in until 3:00 p.m., though they might accommodate earlier arrival in the lobby. I planned to send the termination email and cancel the corporate card precisely when their flight reached cruising altitude over the Atlantic. This timing would ensure they were completely unreachable and unaware until landing in Paris, where they would suddenly find themselves without the financial means they were counting on. I documented all of Jake's fraudulent expenses, compiling them into a report for the finance department. I also backed up all his work files and removed his access credentials from our systems to be enacted simultaneously with his termination. The final step was to prepare for the aftermath. I cleared my schedule for the next day, knowing I would need to address the situation with my team and potentially manage fallout with clients Jake had been working with. As I left the office that evening, I felt a strange calm. The pain of Sophia's betrayal was still there, a dull ache beneath my ribs, but it was overshadowed by the knowledge that actions have consequences, and theirs were about to catch up with them in spectacular fashion. I stopped by my apartment, half expecting to find it emptied of Sophia's possessions, but surprisingly, most of her things remained. She had apparently only packed for the trip, planning to send someone for the rest later. This suited my timeline perfectly. There would be no confrontation before their departure. I checked the flight status online. It was scheduled to depart on time. Now all I had to do was wait. The next evening, I tracked their flight online, watching as it taxied and took off right on schedule. When the flight tracker showed they had reached cruising altitude over the Atlantic, I executed my plan. First, I sent a formal email to Jake's company address. Jake, effective immediately. Your internship with the company is terminated due to fraudulent use of company resources for personal expenses, including but not limited to unauthorized travel accommodation and gifts. All company privileges are hereby revoked, including your corporate card email access and building credentials. A full report has been submitted to finance and legal departments. Pierce Reynolds, Marketing Director. 1. Copied HR and the finance department, then immediately called our card services to cancel Jake's corporate card. The representative confirmed the cancellation and noted the reason as fraudulent activity. Any pending authorizations would be declined, and no new charges would be accepted. Next, I sent a text to Jake's personal phone. Enjoy Paris with Sophia. Hope you saved enough of your own money for the trip back. I called the St. James Paris and spoke with the reservations manager, explaining that a fraudulent corporate card had been used to book a reservation under Jake Harris, and that the charges would not be authorized. The guests will need to provide alternate payment upon arrival, the manager assured me. If they cannot, we unfortunately cannot honor the reservation. With all the necessary actions taken, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and waited for the chaos that would unfold approximately 8 hours later when they landed in Paris. Mark called me just after 11:00 a.m. Paris time, 5:00 a.m. In New York, I was already awake, anticipation making sleep impossible. Your former colleague just had quite the scene at the St. James, Mark reported. They arrived by taxi looking very romantic until the front desk informed them their card was declined. The man tried 3 different cards, all rejected. The woman looked mortified. Did they say anything specific? I asked. The man kept insisting it must be a mistake, that he was there on company business. The woman started questioning him about company business in a luxury hotel. They were eventually asked to move their discussion out of the lobby. Around 7:00 a.m. my time, the first message from Sophia came through. What the hell did you do? Jake says his card is canceled, and the hotel will not let us check in. I did not respond. Jake's messages started pouring in. Minutes later, Pierce, there must be some mistake with the company card. Please call me as soon as possible. We are stuck at the hotel. This is completely unprofessional. You cannot just cancel the card without warning. His tone shifted from confused to desperate as reality set in. Look, I understand. You are angry, but this is extreme. We cannot even get a hotel room. All my personal cards are maxed out. I have no way to get us home. Please just reactivate the card for the return flights. You can fire me after. The desperation was satisfying, but I maintained my silence, allowing the situation to play out naturally. By midday, Sophia called repeatedly. I declined each call but listened to her increasingly frantic voicemails. Pierce, this is insane. Jake said this was all paid for through his work. He said he was a director like you. Now we are stranded with barely enough cash for food, let alone a flight home. Her next message revealed the full extent of Jake's deception. He told me he made as much as you do, that he was about to be promoted above you, that the Paris trip was just the beginning of the lifestyle he could provide. I cannot believe I fell for this. Mark continued sending updates throughout the day. Jake and Sophia had relocated to a budget hotel near the train station. They were spotted arguing loudly in a cafe. Sophia was seen crying on a public bench, while Jake paced frantically on his phone. By the second day, Jake had resorted to calling colleagues at the office trying to borrow money. No one obliged. Sophia apparently contacted friends in New York, attempting to secure funds for a return flight, but was having limited success. I received an email from Sophia's friend, Taylor Pierce. I know Sophia hurt you terribly, but she is stranded in Paris with that lying creep. She realizes she made a horrible mistake. Could you at least help with a flight home? She promises to move her things out immediately and never contact you again. I considered this request carefully. Part of me wanted to extend this lesson indefinitely, but another part recognized that prolonging the situation served no constructive purpose. After 24 hours of their Parisian nightmare, I arranged for one economy class ticket back to New York in Sophia's name, only sent to Taylor with explicit instructions that this was the final communication. Jake, however, would need to find his own way home. His deception was not only personal but professional, using company resources to fund his betrayal. He had burned all bridges. The aftermath at the office unfolded better than I could have anticipated. When I explained the situation to the executive team, leaving out the personal aspects and focusing on Jake's misuse of company funds. They fully supported my decision. In fact, the CEO commended my restraint. Most people would have fired him on the spot and created a scene, Richard noted. Your handling of this showed remarkable professionalism and strategic thinking. My team was initially shocked by Jake's sudden departure but quickly adapted once they understood the circumstances. Several colleagues admitted they had noticed his inappropriate ambition and tendency to take credit for others' work. The finance department implemented new policies regarding corporate card usage, including stricter approval processes for travel expenses and quarterly audits. I was asked to lead a small committee to revise our internship program, ensuring better screening and supervision. 3 weeks after the Paris incident, I received an unexpected opportunity. Our company was expanding its international presence, and the position of International Marketing Director had opened up. Given my demonstrated ability to handle complex situations with composure, Richard recommended me for the role. You showed us you can manage a crisis without losing your cool, he said during the offer discussion. That is exactly what we need for someone overseeing multiple international teams. The position came with a substantial salary increase, greater responsibilities, and extensive travel opportunities. I accepted without hesitation. Jake sent a formal apology letter to the company begging for another chance and offering to repay all fraudulent expenses. The letter was reviewed by the executive team and promptly rejected. He had also emailed me personally several times, his tone evolving from indignant to desperate to resigned as he realized the full consequences of his actions. His final message read, "I understand now why everyone respected you so much. I thought I could take shortcuts to success, but all I did was destroy any chance at a real career. I will be paying for this mistake for years." Sophia continued reaching out sporadically after returning from Paris. Her messages followed a similar pattern of initial anger, followed by attempts to justify her actions, and finally reluctant acknowledgement of her mistakes. I got caught up in the excitement of what Jake promised, she wrote in her last message. He made everything sound so glamorous, telling me he was the real talent behind your campaigns and that he was about to take your position. I realize now it was all lies, and I threw away something real for an illusion. I am truly sorry, Pierce. I never responded to these messages. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my life. I donated or stored most of the furniture Sophia and I had chosen together, and redecorated my apartment with a clean, modern aesthetic that felt entirely my own. The European trip I had planned became something different. 6 months after the Paris incident, I did travel to Europe, but for the company expansion rather than romance. I visited our new offices in London, Paris, and Madrid, establishing relationships with international teams and laying groundwork for global campaigns. In Paris, I stayed at the St. James, reclaiming what had been meant to be a romantic destination and transforming it into a symbol of my professional advancement. Mark joined me for dinner one evening, laughing as he recounted more details of Jake and Sophia's disastrous visit. "The universe has a way of balancing accounts," Mark said, raising his glass. "To karma and new beginnings." During that trip, I met Claire, a French-American marketing executive working with our European distribution partner. Unlike Sophia, her ambition was matched with integrity and genuine passion for creative work. Our professional relationship gradually evolved into friendship and eventually something more. When I think back on that text message that ended my relationship with Sophia, I now see it as a disguised blessing. It revealed the true nature of someone I had trusted, but it also created space for genuine growth and new opportunities both personally and professionally. Sometimes the endings we fear most lead us to the beginnings we deserve. Have you experienced a betrayal that unexpectedly opened doors to something better? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about turning setbacks into comebacks. And if you know someone dealing with betrayal right now, share this video to remind them that sometimes karma works faster than we expect. Thank you for listening. And remember that your response to betrayal reveals more about your character than the betrayal itself.